If you do what you've always done, then you will get what you've always got. That means that whatever we are consistently doing and who we are consistently being is going to be the reflection in our life of what we have. And once I became aware of this, I realized that the version of me that was working a 9-to-5 job was different than the version of me that was making YouTube videos online. And I think the one thing that I could have told my older self is that the key to this whole process is to simply start. Start the process. Start taking action or start being the ideal version of you. When I was back in 2017 working that 9-to-5 job, for months and months and months, I knew I wanted to be on YouTube, but I was worried about what people would think about me. I was focused on getting people's validation and wondering what my dad and my family members would think and friends would think about me making videos. And that held me back from actually stopping. The other thing was I actually got a camera that I could use, but then I didn't have the right editing software. I kept finding reasons as to why I should not start. And really what that was is it was a safety mechanism that was trying to keep me where I was. And once I became aware of that, I eventually made the choice that I'm simply going to start this process. And that's what changed everything. And when I look now and I think of my younger self and I think of a lot of the people that follow the channel, I see that there's so many people with so many amazing gifts, but they're afraid to step into their power or they're afraid to step into the unknown. And the key though is to simply start the process. By starting, the momentum and the energy begins to move, and what happens is then we start to get a new reflection in our life. Yes, resistance will still come up, but part of this process is allowing the resistance to come up to then move through it. It's almost like we must show the universe that we are going to meet it halfway, rather than trying to just have everything come towards us. And the one thing that really switches everything too is becoming aware of the story we are telling ourselves about where we are and why we must stay there. There's a subconscious story that we have around love. There's a subconscious story we have about money, about abundance, about our purpose, about our family. And this story locks us into a static reality that until we change that story, it will remain on autopilot. So in this video, I want to show you how to escape that story, how to change your life, how to really just start, and how to move forward in your life in a completely new way that completely changes your life forever. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I want to show you that just starting is the key to you really shifting your reality in a powerful way. And knowing that being a perfectionist and really setting really high standard is what's blocking you from just beginning the process. And just beginning the process is the key to meeting the universe halfway. And a lot of times what happens is we stop ourselves because we are afraid of the unknown. And now remember the quote at the beginning of the video, if you do what you've always got, you'll get the results. If you do what you've always done, you'll get the results you've always got. This means that there's an autopilot timeline reality that just feels familiar. It just feels comfortable. And if we want to actually create change, we must break out of this box. We must, in a way, do something that this old identity would have never done. And sometimes that means taking radical action. Sometimes that means showing up in a new way and having the courage to step into a new version of yourself. We're in the middle right now of a 21-day magnetic love challenge on YouTube. Not on YouTube, this 21-day magnetic love challenge where for 21 days in a row I'm going live, coaching people, and every day at the end of the video, we get homework assignments where we must go do something. And sometimes these are writing something down on a PDF or writing down, and letting go of something or whatever it is, but recently we did something called an identity stretch experience. So it's where we get our identity of who we are and we do something our identity would have never done. This meant for some people, it meant going into a hardware store and dancing to music. And the idea is that by doing this and not caring what other people think, it can have this profound experience on our identity, on the way that we view ourselves, that then begins to change how we show up in the world. Because maybe for a long time we've lived really caring what other people thought. And when all of a sudden we start dancing or we start doing something in public that makes us look a little bit crazy, we then realize, wait, most people are focused on themselves anyways. And not only that, I just don't care what people think as much as I thought. Now, there were people that did this. Some people's identity shift experience was them going to and calling one of their family members, was calling their mom or their dad and saying, hey, mom, dad, can you please just tell me that you're proud of me? And demanding for them to in a way, say something that maybe they'd never said before. Or maybe it was them calling an old friend to talk to them about something that happened that they never really mentioned. For some people, it was a vulnerability challenge. Some people are stepping out of the box, but we had thousands of people in this challenge doing these identity shift experiences, and the results from it were profound. People started recognizing in their life where they're holding themselves back, but more so than that, people that used to consider themselves shy, people that used to, view themselves as having intimacy issues, all of a sudden having these vulnerable talks, it shifted the way that they view themselves, and that then changed their reality. I know when I started on YouTube, I really cared and was really worried about making videos where people could hear me because I was living at my dad's house. I was actually living at my dad's house in the backyard making videos. Neighbors could hear what I was talking about. I'm talking about the law of attraction and these esoteric concepts, and I really cared. And then when I said, you know what, I'm gonna break through this fear. So what I did is I got a little, like one of those selfie sticks. I put a phone on it, and I walked around in Las Vegas in Caesar's Forum shops and outside. I walked around filming a video. I did that because it broke me out of my fear of caring what people thought. All of a sudden, hundreds of people are walking down the street seeing me talk on camera. It was no big deal. I realized that I didn't have to care so much. Then I started walking through Caesar's Forum shops. The interesting thing about this is it was quiet. I'm walking through this hallway, and it's much more quiet than outside. People can then hear what I'm saying. What happened was I felt so free. And even a part of this identity shift thing I'm talking about, I went out with friends, we did a scavenger hunt where we each had like these embarrassing things to do in public. We did these, and what happened is one of them is I had to convince two people in Natural Grocers in Sedona. I had to convince two people that I had a purple ferret that I lost, and if they could help me find it. Did that, and it was liberating. Afterwards, I felt so alive. It was also, another one was I proposed to an artichoke in Whole Foods, gave it a long speech, and then asked the artichoke to marry me, and there was like a big crowd of people like, what the hell's going on? What I realized though is it doesn't really matter what people think. This made me realize, where in my life am I holding myself back and really caring what other people think? I did something my identity would have never done. And from that, it allowed me to show up in the world in a completely new place. What you'll find too is that the only fear that comes to doing something new is the thoughts about it. I was bringing people on, coaching people just 2 days ago, and we were sharing the homework from the night before of this identity shift experience. It's the most intense thing to do in that 21-day challenge is like going out and doing something and posting about that, like doing something embarrassing and facing that fear. But people said, multiple people said that the fear wasn't the actual thing itself, it was leading up to it. And I used to do forensics debate in high school, and I remember that anytime I would go to these debate tournaments, the only nervous part was right before you walked into the classroom to debate. There was like in classrooms, there were judges and stuff, but it was at these schools or on stage or whatever it is. Same with public speaking. When I'm on stage or I'm doing something or I'm in a live event, I'm not nervous while I'm doing it. But leading up to it, I'll start thinking about it. It works the same way. But one of the biggest things that will shift your life is when you do something that your old identity wouldn't have done because it was fearful. Fear is a mechanism that keeps you safe where you are. And what happens is once we become aware of that, how can we do something new? Because how we do one thing is how we do everything. So in that 21-day magnetic love challenge, these people are doing these amazing things that are shifting the way they view themselves. And then what happens is they're starting to show up in their life in a completely new way. For some of them, because it's the magnetic love challenge, many of the people are single. So for one of them, initiating going up to someone and asking for their number. That begins to shift the way they see. They now see themselves as an initiator. Do you see? This changes the identity. When I started making daily videos on YouTube, it was because I knew that that would shift my identity. That would shift the way I saw myself. I went from like trying to manifest by thinking better thoughts and sitting on a couch. Nothing wrong with that, but for me, it just didn't work as well as me taking action and me being the version of me that I prefer to be. And here's the thing too, the guy that initiated, that used to say, I'm not an initiator. So my stretch experience, or whatever they call that, is to go out and to initiate. What happened is the first time he did it, he then took the identity with him. He is now an initiator. It's not like once he does it to 70 people, then he's the initiator. Once I started making videos on YouTube, I was a YouTuber. I am a YouTuber, I guess you could say. Now I'm actually shedding that identity. Shedding it because I see that it actually keeps me kind of stuck in my old reality. But the key to this is realizing that you can take on who you are being, decide this is who you are, that will change your life. Remember, we get in life a reflection of who we are being, not just what we think. Because if what we want and what we think is the focus, we're taking it away from our whole energetic expression. Who are we being? Our thoughts, our emotions, our actions are equal to the reality we're in. And sometimes the old identity that's on autopilot that feels safe, if you do something that version of you would have never done and you step into the unknown and you have courage, especially when it's tied to your passion, it changes everything. It takes courage to start. It takes courage to make videos and to not care what people think, or to at least push through that fear. It takes courage to go up and ask that person out. It takes courage for you to go after that dream job, whatever it is. It takes courage. But the moment you start stepping into the unknown like that is the moment that your reality begins to shift. You are meeting the universe halfway. So I would say that as well, when you have a divine intention with it, you want to maybe help other people, or it's something you're actually passionate about, it comes to fruition much easier because it's more inspired. It's more inspired. Inspired means in spirit. So me making videos was very conducive because I was having the intention to add value and help people. And you could do the same thing by starting. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to, I didn't know editing when I started making YouTube videos. My first video ever says insert title here. You can go check it out on YouTube if you organize by date. That shows you don't need to have it perfect to start. But once you start meeting the universe halfway. You start stepping into the unknown. You start redefining yourself in a new way. It changes everything about you when you do that. So my question to you is, what are you committing to starting? Comment below. Let me know what you are starting. Also, there's an app called High Viber. High Viber is completely free. It's a community app of other high vibe tribe people. And what we are doing is we're teaming up. We're doing live meditations, workshops, activations, and it's a place for connecting and finding your tribe. So if you want to raise your vibe, find your tribe, download the High Viber app on Apple or Android, or click the link below. Go to highviber.com. Check it out. There's also meditations in there that you can check out as well. And as always, I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace, much love, and namaste.